Good evening.
I was one of the ones that didn't think we were even having this tonight. I just thought it was the vote on the liquor thing. And I was wondering why. Why is it just the liquor thing? Because on Monday, everybody kept on saying next Thursday, and I was thinking, why aren't we meeting this Thursday? And then we got the agenda about the liquor thing. And so I was like, well, I guess we are meeting next Thursday. See, Phyllis sent that email this morning saying that there was confusion.
There's 2 meetings.
Yeah.
Oh. I got
Maybe she back there's doing it.
hacked.
I am. Been working on that homes tour stuff. It's about ready to drive me crazy. Yeah, I was trying to get Lincoln's volunteers all worked out this morning. Because Lincoln's also using it part of their homecoming events. So the alumni won't pay to go through, so I'm going to make sure that those volunteers knew that they don't have to pay. Because this year I think they're collecting money at the doors too, front doors of all the properties. Why is my...
How we doing on vendors, do you know?
Yes,
Halfway?
I know.
Halfway?
You know.
Okay, did it kill anybody?
Only 30 have not responded. I've only had 24 responses on the North Sioux City. So more than half have not in any way
So
communicated with us.
what, by 10 o'clock tomorrow, you're gonna have,
Yeah, we started my close of business today. They have
so by 10 o'clock tomorrow, you'll have,
I mean, I don't know.
huh?
And I know he sent an email.
Welcome, everybody. It's 5:15, so we will go ahead and start our Thursday, August 17th, 2017 special City Council meeting. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. Mrs. Powell, roll call, please.
Fitzwater. Here. Graham.
Here.
Henry.
Here.
Hussey.
Here.
Kemna.
Here.
Mahalovich. Prather.
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Weisman.
Item 3, is there a motion for adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 4, bills introduced, number 2017-58.
An ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Code of the City of Jefferson, Missouri relating to Sunday sales of alcohol.
Mr. Molman?
Thank you, Mayor. Last week we approved an ordinance which created a single Sunday sales liquor license. Essentially what that would do would allow a current licensee to apply for a Sunday sales license, which would then allow them to sell liquor on a single specified Sunday. That was approved at our meeting last week, and in the interim, the potential licensees who could take advantage of this section brought to the city's attention that in addition to city liquor licenses, that they would also have to, of course, comply with county and state liquor licenses, and that the financial obligations that go along with obtaining those licenses would make it potentially such that they would not take advantage of the single-day Sunday sales liquor license, which of course is designed to encourage restaurants to stay open for the upcoming Eclipse events next Sunday. But it was written in a generally applicable manner so that it could be used in the future for other events that could take place on Sundays. In response to those comments, staff has put together the bill that is in front of you, 1758, which provides that the fee for a licensee's first application for such license in any given year be waived. So essentially what this does is says the first time that you ask for a single Sunday sales liquor license in a license year, that it would be free. And this was, of course, designed to lower the burden, the financial burden, in obtaining the triple licensure that a liquor licensee would have to get in order to participate in a single Sunday sales liquor license, and therefore encourage people to stay open for this large event, which happens to fall on a Sunday. So that is essentially what this bill does. It waives the first application in any given year for a single Sunday sales liquor license. I would like to call your attention to Amendment Sheet number 1, which I have provided to each of you After this ordinance was drafted and sent out and finalized, we discussed with finance the administration of this single Sunday sales liquor license and the fee waiver, and finance believed that it would be for better administrative purposes, keeping track of these things, that if it were only the licensee's first application for a single Sunday sales liquor license, that the license fee be waived, and so therefore, not in any given year, but only the first one total. To have to keep track of that on an annual basis, finance believed that it presented some administrative challenges. So, in recognition of that, we've provided this amendment sheet number 1 to Bill 1758. If anyone is of inclination to take up amendment sheet number 1, I believe finance would be able to address that further as to some of their thinking as to why the administration would be better off that way. But either way, we're looking at either waiving the $50 license application fee the first time every year, or waiving the $50 license application fee just the very first time, which would, for a lot of people looking to take advantage of the single Sunday sales liquor license, would apply for this upcoming Sunday for the Eclipse events. Be happy to address any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Molman? Okay, and under this particular bill, there is a check mark. So do we have a request to suspend the rules? Councilman?
Yeah, request
Timna?
suspend the rules. I'd like to motion to amend the bill 1758 as is written.
Okay, we have a motion to suspend the rules, and seeing no objections, we also have a motion to amend. So is there a second to amend the bill?
Second.
So any further discussion on the amendment? So at this time, do we need a voice vote to accept the amendment?
Right.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so right now we have Bill 2017-58 as amended on the table. Is there any discussion or council deliberation on the bill? Councilman Graham?
I just have one question, Madam Mayor. Ryan, in regards to this, will they have enough time to apply for this one-day license in time for Sunday's event?
So the timing issue is actually a state issue, and we've been in contact with the state. They're generally able to turn around Sunday sales applications in a day. He said if I got it on a Monday, I'd be able to get it done on a Tuesday, especially at this time of year, which is fairly slow for them. As far as the city portion of that, I think we've been able to turn those around fairly quickly, except for when there were larger problems with no sales tax due problems or something to that effect. But in practical terms, what we're really talking about are the people who have already applied to the city for the Sunday sales. What we would be looking at is a refund of the $50 application fee. And then based on that, there should be enough time for them to apply to the state and and get their state license, which is also needed in order for them to be in compliance with the state. So, as far as the city goes, we've probably seen all that we've seen. That would be my very best guess. So,
So they can apply tomorrow and get a response back tomorrow, same day?
yeah,
As long as
it's-
they have an active
As long as they have
liquor
an
license,
active.
yeah.
yes.
And we already have processed 5 applications and accepted the fee, so we will be refunding those if this
Refunding.
passes tonight.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you, and I appreciate the city working along with the council to make it as favorable as possible to encourage businesses to be open for that Sunday for the eclipse. And in the future, we would revisit this. I've just sort of indirectly mentioned to Mr. Molman that to see looking at the particular Sunday piece, and if that's something that's kind of the history of it and what the purpose would be, if it's something we need to keep on the books for the future or not, and looking at the county and state and other entities. So
In speaking to the state liquor licensing official, he actually mentioned that they have contemplated something like this and have been asked about something like this in the past, relating to instances in which Valentine's Day falls on a Sunday, and so he immediately thought of other applicable situations. So if there were further discussion on this, I think we could think of reasons for and against to continue this, especially after we see the results from the upcoming eclipse events.
great. Well, this will get us set for the eclipse, and we'll look forward to more discussion in the future. So any further deliberation? Councilwoman Weisman?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Molman, you'd indicated that there could be two interpretations of the way that this ordinance is written. Are you asking for, is this something that we would have to clarify later? And you're going to be asking for quick clarification later? Because I can, of course, also think about 4th of July and other holidays that happen to fall.
No, the two potential interpretations depends on the success of the amendment sheet, and basically with the approval of the amendment sheet, it would only be the very first time an applicant asks for this that the fee would be waived. So with the approval of the amendment sheet, the question has been answered.
Any further questions or deliberation? All right, roll call, please.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kemna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Motion passes. So item 5, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. But you can't leave. We're adjourning, but you can't leave. So all in favor on adjournment? And while we're adjourning, of course, I want to do a quick reminder that if everybody has their eclipse glasses, I know Councilman Mahalovich over there is trying to outdo my selfies and my pictures, so we'll take care of that right now. So it looks like we are adjourned, and now we will begin the budget meeting. Thank you. You're not going to outdo, he's not going to outdo me over here, so.
Thank you.
I like being able to drink at a council meeting. I think that.
Say what? What?
It's on Sunday.
Wait a minute.
I was just going to say, was that permission?
So do you think we'll have, so tomorrow?
Got 5:27.
We got 3 minutes.
Yep.
I mean, do you think that
Do you need to draw water or anything?
Honestly, though, the rest of them are probably already Sunday sales. You know, the restaurants like Magnuson, and anybody else that's in the area is probably Sunday sales.
We have agenda for Monday. I printed agenda for Monday already.
That's what's so funny, you know? That's what I find so humorous in it.
I might be able to download it
How
and
much
look at it.
time we wasted on that issue?
going to have this resolution.
That night afterwards, they had it pulled up. Because that's when he said, you did not send this to me. Okay. It didn't. Well, and when... I can't... How did you find out that in last year's Marlin? I think I'm in last year's book. Oh, gosh. Did you just ask who they were?
We just named Domenico's.
Yeah. The Grand Cafe, Echo, Domenico's, High Street Pub, and Harris's.
Harris's Bistro. Wasn't it Harris's Bistro? Cafe, whatever, it's not.
Actually, it's
Harris
listed
Pizza.
under the bistro, so.
Yeah.
The bistro.
At Margie's budget office. Margie's budget office?
We don't need permits.
Certainly not waiting until Sunday, that's for sure.
We're going to give it away. It's not liquor sales.
We actually, Craig, who's, pretty even keeled,
What is going to happen tonight?
about, I'm just going to put on a sweater shirt and go over there on Sunday.
Wherever that is.
Wherever they want to set it up.
That's a whole lot, yeah, wherever.
That would be my suggestion. But that's why I brought this. I brought that.
I think we're at the appointed time, right? Okay. Okay, I'd like to go ahead and call the budget meeting in order and have a roll call, please.
Fitzwater. Graham.
Here.
Henry.
Here.
Hussey.
Here.
Kemna.
Here.
Mahalovich.
Here.
Prather.
Here.
Schreiber. Ward.
Here.
Wiseman.
Here.
Okay. The fun continues. We've kind of had all the department reports. We've had information, I hope, time to talk with one another in the department chairs. Do we have any directive from city administrator or any comments?
No,
From
we don't have
finance?
any, no.
Margie, any? Okay. Are you ready to be called on, Council Lady Weissman?
Yes, ma'am. I am.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sorry. It's been a long day. Okay.
She has left the building.
I
Okay.
am just here in body right now.
Very good. You have your eclipse glasses on when you said that.
I know, right? I'd actually, Mr. Mamert is here today, and so I was just asking a few questions before council, and I'd asked a few questions of Mr. Marash as well. Can you guys share with the council what days or if there are times of the year that particularly maybe are low ridership or something that the council could endorse that would be like almost an advertising portion?
The lowest ridership month that we have is actually November. That is a good measure of when we experience our lowest ridership. It's just one of those things where during the holidays we miss 2 days with Thanksgiving usually, and we also have Veterans Day during that time period as well. So we have enough holidays that we have lesser ridership during that time period. January is also another low ridership month, although I would not necessarily recommend if we were going to do some sort of incentive due to weather concerns and trying to get more folks to use the system. Likely would not be a good time to offer some sort of incentive because of the weather. Folks are just not willing to generally stand out at a bus stop if to experience transit. That's probably not going to be what they would want to do. So if we were going to do something along those lines, I'd recommend November, potentially October. Those types of fall months would likely be our best bet.
Now, Mr. Marash had talked previously about potentially breaking that up. Is that something that you'd be looking at as well, or is that you would just want to do a solid month?
Well, as usual, there's some pros and cons to doing it one way or the other. The pro of breaking up during a week at a time is that generally toward the end of the month is our lowest ridership period for any month in particular. However, at the same time, having the incentive for a full month in which people would be able to try the service, see if it works for them, use it to go to work, do some shopping, things like that, live their everyday lives for a month at a time. That provides some incentive as well to do it all in one block. So it's a little bit of weighing which option is going to be more effective.
Okay. Now, in particular, this item is actually a pink sheet item, and I discussed a concept with Councilman Prather earlier today that I'm not wrapping my head quite around yet, but you had mentioned that this is more of an incentive, and in fact, we're allocating some money in the budget already to transit. Would this be an additional cost, or how can you? Would it be included in that cost, and maybe the $11,000 doesn't necessarily need to be included? Is this more of an endorsement? Can you explain that?
Well, it would be a real reduction in revenue. We would experience a reduction in revenue regardless of how long we would choose. However, at the same time, with a $2.5 million budget in toto, $11,000 is not a large amount in the scope of the entire transit budget. So if you're asking me, could it be potentially covered in the money that is already scheduled to come to transit based upon the draft budget? Certainly, that would probably work if gas prices and fuel prices remain as they are. If fuel prices go up a dime, 25 cents, then would likely be coming to the council and asking for a supplemental. So, again, it would depend on how the year goes, because those are largely unknowns.
This would be the conservative way to look at it if you were, we try to give you the most conservative approach in our budgeting, so you can expect at least that 11,000, but you may not incur that. Not only gas prices, our maintenance is another big ticket item. If our buses are aging, we happen to get a big repair, we may come back. So we don't want to give you the impression that this might be covered in savings. I mean, it's possible, but you just don't know. So I think that's...
Yes.
And you would still be coming back to us for a request if gas were to increase, if we didn't do this and gas were to increase a quarter anyway, correct?
That's correct. I don't, if fuel prices were to increase a quarter or something along those lines, I think that it would be very difficult for us to meet our budget as it currently stands.
If I were to ask you a preference of having, a block of time like the month, or maybe like 12 individual days out of the year for an endorsement by the council, what would be your preference?
I think the preference would be for the block, the 1 month time. I think that's probably our most effective way of reaching. It's the biggest splash. It's something that we can continually promote. It gives us a lot more mind share, I think, that you can say that rides are free for this entire month. People don't have to mark, is it good this week or is it good 3 weeks from now? It's an entire month that makes it simpler for folks.
Okay.
Councilman Prather.
I don't know if this is a question for Matt or Steve or Mark. Would this be appropriate for like a resolution as opposed to being on the budget?
I think I think either way, if you're talking about, if it's a resolution, you're talking about, would that be a supplemental appropriation? Is that what?
If need be.
Or something later, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying that we support it, and that's what we want to do, and if they have to come back later for a supplemental appropriation, we would do so.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's probably easier just to make it part of the budget. Would that be your thought, or?
Several ways of doing it.
Several, I mean, my thought was, that, that as things were going on in transit, we've got that transit study going on, and if you're not going to do something in order to increase ridership, then it seems to me like there's going to be a fair revenue increase somewhere. But my thought was that transit would come back depending on circumstances and bring those various items back if in fact that's what you wanted as supplementals then. But either way is fine. I think it's probably easier at this point to make it part of the budget if that's what council wants to do.
And I guess if we did it in the budget, we'd have to find an offset for it, I guess that's why I was getting at.
Yeah. There's if you want to give the answer, that's fine, Margie. There's a couple of ways you can go about doing it.
A couple ways you could do it. You could make the assumption that the $11,000 in fares that you wouldn't receive as revenue could be offset by an increase in revenue elsewhere because of increased ridership. So it's a wash. Or you could just say it's a decrease in revenues of $11,000 and an increase in the subsidy of $11,000, which would then require $11,000 out of the fund balance, the general fund balance. Yeah, the third option, thanks Sheila, is to reduce one of the expense lines in transit by $11,000. So you'd be decreasing revenue by 11 and decreasing expense by 11,000.
Part of my hesitancy is, and maybe we can get an update on where the consultant is on the study that they're doing, but I don't know what impacts or issues that study may have on transit. Maybe those are longer term, I just don't know. I haven't been that involved in that part, and I don't know if anybody has any information on that yet or not.
The consultant has brought back, and Sonny, jump in anytime you'd like. The consultant has brought in the system, the current system assessment, so the current conditions report, as they call it. So they've done their assessment, but the plan in terms of what steps that they're going to recommend for the transit system as a whole has not yet been developed.
Councilman Henry.
And Mark, to just piggybacking off of that, is there what's the timetable for that portion?
The plan is due to be done before the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
The plan is is under the auspices of Campo. Campo is the actual entity that has procured the plan.
Councilman Hussey.
Sorry, I'm catching up after missing a couple budget meetings, but the desire to do this, it seems like there's some moving parts still here. So it looks like it got added as a parking lot expense change, but we're struggling with a potential offset. Doesn't seem like there's necessarily the urgency of deciding whether or not we want to do this free ridership like right now. I mean, the study may dictate some things. I think that the council probably supports efforts to increase ridership. I just wonder if we should be nitpicking and pulling money from the fund balance, or is this something that can come back to the council when we have more clarity about the study, and it makes more sense and there's a more concrete plan to say we want to make this month be the free month, here's the rollout. And maybe you all talked about that at the last meeting and had the same conversation, but I guess I'm scratching my head that we're spending a lot of time on a relatively small item that still has some unanswered questions. And it seems like, are we better suited kind of knowing that there's going to potentially be support for an idea like this, but waiting until we have more concrete answers on what the study says and what the plan is, and maybe if revenues go up as the budget year starts.
Council Lady Weissman.
Thank you. I'm actually on board with what Councilman Hussey said. I think that I would like to withdraw that from the parking lot at this time, waiting for the transit study and maybe determining if we need to allocate that from the transit budget or with a resolution in the future.
Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second and then a vote on that to remove it.
I move to remove it from the parking lot.
Okay, I got a motion, moved in second.
Can I ask
discussion?
a quick question? I'm curious about from Mark and Matt and Steve, like hypothetically 6 months from now, you wanted to run a week of free ridership to sort of, what council action would be necessitated in the sense if you recognize that your budget was healthy and you could afford to do something like that, to offer a promotion like that, does that require us to take action? I mean, you might want our endorsement of it, but I guess, was it within your authority to do things like that?
Yeah, the code indicates that we can run promotional items, and then it would be on us to make sure our budget could cover them.
So there's the potential you could do some sort of promotion.
We did a one-day free
Okay.
deal without, we told you we're going to do it because we were advertising it,
Yeah.
and no one had any problem with it, but we didn't ask for any money for the
Okay.
one day.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions? If not, I guess we're ready to vote to remove the $11,000 transit from the parking lot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We'll remove that off the parking lot. Thank you for the discussion. Okay, Council Lady Ward.
I know my request to add a planner one to the parking lot was voted down. I was not going to bring it back up. However, the Director of Planning and Protective Services did reach out to me, and he was able to provide some answers regarding the salary for a planner one. The salary, we wouldn't actually be looking at $70,400. We would be looking at $58,800. And then in order to set that position up with a desk and a computer and an additional $2,000, he is actually willing to sacrifice for this budget year his 2 vehicles in the total of $50,000 in order to cover that salary. I know there's a little bit of shortfall there. I think that maybe the $2,000, since would be a one-time expense, could be taken out of the general fund. Again, we just have a lot of things going on in our older neighborhoods, and we have a lot of areas that aren't zoned correctly, and we have a lot of plans that are up that's coming forward to us for us to vote on. And if we're going to vote on those plans, I think we need to have some staff and expertise and able to implement those. So I would just like to maybe make a motion to put that back up on to put it up on the parking lot. Thank you.
Is motion made? Do I have a second? Okay. A discussion, please. Councilman Prather.
I think that's great as far as sacrificing the vehicles. I mean, that seems fair. But my only concern is that handles the 1 year. What's his plan for the subsequent years following to fund that individual?
I can't answer that, but I do know this is how we did look to fund the street worker last year. That was a priority pink sheet that wasn't funded, and I brought forth with the approval from the director that they would be willing to sacrifice, I believe it was a dump truck, to offset that salary. And I don't know how that was done from a budget standpoint, but that's why I'm bringing it forward again this year.
Any further discussion with regard to the motion on the floor? Councilman Hussey.
I guess I have a question for the motion maker. Was the motion to add the position, was did you include in your motion the offset to remove the 2 vehicles?
Well, that would be, yes, that would be part of the motion.
That was,
'cause
okay.
that's-
I just want to make sure what we're voting
Right,
on is
okay.
clear.
Yes, the chair actually on Monday asked me to come with offsets, but then it was voted down. But so I was going to bring it forth, but since now I do have some offsets, I would like to also include that on the parking lot.
So to clarify, I mean, we have 58.8. Was that additional 2,000 for?
I believe that was office setup.
Okay, so we have a total of 60,800, and then an offset of minus 50. Is that correct?
Yes,
So we have, it's out of balance at this point.
correct.
Okay.
Although the 2,000 would be a one-time expense, and I would like to, I guess, add to my motion that 2,000 could be taken out of the general fund. If that's,
So I'm not sure if
so
I.
it would be 8,000, not 10,000 short.
So, one recommendation for Councilwoman Ward would, you could take the 2 trucks and just fund the 50,000, and that's the allocation, and so. Oh, yeah, so the position wouldn't be filled until, you prorate the position for the year, basically, so we're not having to pull from fund balance to offset, but the planner doesn't get hired until January or February or something like that. If you wanted to do that and avoid pulling from the fund balance.
I'd be willing, yes.
Okay, let me be sure that I have it for the clerk and myself. So we're talking about still 58,800 and 2,000 for the office, and that's 60. Okay, 60,800 is what I have as a cost right now. Okay, and then the offset is the $50,000 plus vacancy savings to the point at which we could pay for that without any further reductions in the budget. Well, that's going to be one interesting one to put on the parking lot. Do we have an agreement from the person who made the second? Okay. So we have a motion made and second with regard to adding planner of $58,800, $2,000 for office to $60,800 with an offset of 2 vehicles, which would be $50,000. And then the balance of, was it 10.8?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would recommend just funding Planner 1 at $48,000 and $2,000 furniture, and then the offset is the 2 replacement vehicles of $50,000, with the understanding that because of funding it at 48, the planner salary and benefits at 48, there would be a lag in hiring.
Planner 1 at 48,000, and then 2,000 for the office, and then an offset of 50,000 vehicles. Is that correct? Is that good with the motion maker?
Yes.
And the second? Okay, any discussion? Councilman Fitzwater.
First question, can you refresh my memory what the immediacy of this position was? Why we're looking to do this now?
You weren't part of the process for the East Capitol Urban Renewal Development and the rezoning district. That took a lot of hours. There's just one position in that department that does that type of research, in-depth research, to be able to make a plan like that happen. So a lot of things got put on the back burner. We have a lot of areas that aren't zoned correctly and aren't protected. I know there's hopes of getting that type of district in our downtown area, because right now our downtown isn't protected. If we were to lose anything for fire or demolition, there's no protections of what could be rebuilt. whether it be a fast food restaurant or a gas station. I think Sunny could elaborate more, but I just know for the past 18 years of living in the urban core, our areas are in dire need of attention. And I just think if they were zoned a different way, and I think it would just help people to invest in those areas more if they had more zoning protections and design protections. Sunny, you want to elaborate on?
Sure. Actually, I have a whole list here that I could distribute of things that we'd like to do with additional staff, if I may.
Sure. I'm sure what's on the list is comprehensive plan, but maybe you can remind us what this budget addresses in terms of the comprehensive plan.
Yes. We also pink sheeted a comprehensive plan over a 2-year period for a total of $250,000. This planner position would focus on the tasks that Mr. Barron actually was the exclusive person working on these tasks. He did the Capitol Avenue Overlay District. He's actually the one that assembled this list. He's had this list for quite a while going on in terms of the tasks that he'd like to address that would help protect the core of the city and other areas too. In terms of having an existing plan, we've always had an issue having the resources to help implement that plan. One thing we did with the MPO is, if you remember, just as an example, and this kind of came to me just 10 minutes before this meeting, is Mr. Bangy put together a, sorry for the graphic, I'm being really impromptu here, but this graphic here represents a history of bicycling in Jefferson City. Once Campo developed a plan, once Campo developed a plan, and the planners, there was 3 of us in the MPO at the time, started working with the other departments and the community to implement the plan. You see all the activities that have been occurring since that time. And that's just sort of one aspect of what we can do. If we were able to focus on the downtown, the South Side plan is in the process of coming alive. We have the Central East Side plan. We would like to spend time on helping implement those tasks that were in those plans. For instance, the Capitol Avenue Overlay District. How many years was that supposed to be? That was back in 2006. So hopefully this additional planner would help us focus on the priorities and needs of helping revitalize the city. And that's what planning can do. Mr. Prather, you asked what sort of revenue would be generated. I think that would probably be in property values being increased, economic activity, those types of things that are intangible, sort of economic development revenue, if you will, just from having a more vibrant and useful and a quality of life in terms of the core part of the city. So, I mean, that's sort of a big picture.
Do you think $50,000 worth of would be generated every year?
I don't have those numbers. I would think it would come close to it over time, certainly. I mean, if you take a look at the biking activity, for instance, sure, there was capital outlay for a lot of the infrastructure, but it also helps promote tourism. With the Eclipse, look at all the activities that are focusing around the bicycle. So I would think it would come close. There certainly would, I can't quantify that. I don't have those numbers.
I think it would not only help property values and people investing in these areas and perhaps wanting to live there and revitalize these areas. I think it would also help from a safety standpoint. The more activity you have in these areas of beautification, we know our parks department wants to put a lot of green space and a lot of parks in these areas. The South Side plan includes that, cleaning out Wares Creek along 50 and making that a walkway and park-like setting. I do think it would improve both property values and safety issues, I think, too, because you're bringing people in, more people around. It's cleaner. I just think, I'm looking at big picture, sunny things. So I think you just need to, no pun intended, just sunny days. But we have to start out somewhere, and I think that step one is planning for those things.
Councilman Prather, then Councilman Fitzwater.
Sonny, do you think this is something that you guys could possibly outsource and get help that way, as opposed to getting an employee and incurring all the extra benefits and so forth?
I would think we certainly can outsource the comprehensive plan. If you take a look at how much the Parks and Recreation strategic plan is costing, $250,000, I would think that would be comparable to developing the plan. But this planner, I think, would be more instrumental in helping implement the current plans that we have, and we can update the comprehensive plan incrementally as we go, section by section, would be a way to do that. So, for instance, we just did the bike pedestrian plan at the MPO level. That was adopted as part of the comprehensive plan. We can do that with other areas, whether it's future land use, which actually the MPO is going to be working on a process with that, a project with that we're going out to a consultant to help us with at the tune of $150,000. A lot of those components can actually dovetail into this plan, but this planner, I think, would be more valuable helping focus on the implementation of the existing plans we have, and as we move along, update incrementally the overall comprehensive plan. So hopefully I answered the question.
Councilman Fitzwater.
I had two questions. The number for the position, that's all inclusive, or is that just a salary number? So that's benefits and everything?
Yeah, it's a planner one, beginning salary of that range plus benefits. The 58.8 is salary plus benefits.
Okay. My second question is, and I'm just going through this for the first time, but I assume when equipment requests come to us, there's a need. We're now saying that we can back off of 2 of the proposed trucks. Is there a risk at some point during the year that we actually are going to need 1 or both of those trucks and they come back with a request, or what's the process?
Certainly, I think these are looked at holistically by the city administrator, and we have an equipment plan, and it's really not, it's somewhat independent of the request for personnel and other things, really. I mean, it's a year-old, certain year-old truck, certain mileage, certain repair bills incurring, and so, yeah, the risk would be, you have to fix it more, I guess. Or, if it breaks down. So that's the best way I can explain that. And I don't recall, I think somebody said Public Works may have traded for 2 employees last year. I don't think Public Works stated that request. I don't believe that way. Last year, I think it was, we had 2 employees we were down still. And I just want to be clear about that. I don't think we brought that up. I think the council decided, well, they may ask us or something. We said, well, certainly in our pink sheet, if you look at our pink sheet, our number 1 priority was this. And so that's how that occurred, as I recall. But, it's been a year. I don't recall everything. So I just want to make that clear.
Councilman Hussey.
To please Councilman Mihalovich, excuse me, on the performance measures for the department, an additional planner, are there any items in here that you would speak to say that your department would move in a positive direction with an additional staff member, such as, would we see an increase in the % of site plan review comments returned within 15 days? Amendments process, those types of things. I know that you kind of spoke that there would be movement, but do you foresee quantifiable?
Yes, I would see that the day-to-day activities would probably improve in terms of performance just because the one person who does all of these tasks, whether it's planning and zoning, site plan review, helping with the demolition ordinances, you would not believe how many different areas that our planner actually helps other departments with helping develop ordinances and things like that. So I think having an additional planner, entry-level planner, would help the overall performance of not just the planning division, but also all of the planning and protective services department, and probably be beneficial to other departments too.
Do you think we could get 100% of site plans reviewed within 15 days?
Not all that is dependent upon staff getting that
Okay.
reviewed.
Thank you.
I don't see any further questions on the motion. In the debate, I noticed that there was some discussion of downtown and the south side and the comprehensive plan, and possibly it might impact how we proceed, or the speed we proceed with the demolition ordinance should it come forward and pass. Clarify the degree at which this really involves the entire city, not just those parts mentioned.
Planning, we plan for the whole city. We work with every department there is to varying degrees, whether it's looking at business licenses or actually enforcement of various codes and things like that. But the planner helps implement the vision that's been set forth for the community as a whole in the plans that you all approve, the Planning and Zoning Commission approves, other committees approve like that too. You would notice that in cities without planning at all, you've probably driven through some towns without any planning or zoning, and it looks haphazard, perhaps trashy or whatever like that. Planning actually helps improve the quality of life overall in very many different facets of government. So I think an additional planner would be a great asset to the community and help it improve and be more vibrant than it is now.
Any further comments on the motion? Councilman Prather.
Is there a reason why you didn't have this in the budget to begin with?
It was a pink sheet item.
It was priority over the vehicles?
I believe it was.
Okay.
I may be mistaken.
Okay. Appreciate the reference to the performance measures by Councilman Hussey. Thank you. Looks like we're prepared to vote on this, so I'm going to choose to have a roll call on this. Clerk, please. Do we need the motion read, or are you all clear on what we're reading?
I'm good.
Could you have it read again? Could you have that motion? Could you have it read again?
Okay.
This is for the Planner 1 at $48,000 plus $2,000 for the office expense, and the offset would be the 2 vehicles for $50,000.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Fitzwater,
No.
Graham,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Kemna,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Prather,
No.
Schreiber,
Aye.
Ward, Aye. Wiseman,
Aye.
8-2.
Ayes have it. That goes up on the parking lot. Okay, I'm prepared to have the next discussion on topics that council wishes to have brought forth. If there's no topics, yes, Councilman Prather.
I do have a topic, and it's somewhat germane to the budget. I have a bill in front of me, bill number 2017-65, which is authorizing a $750,000 supplemental appropriation within the general fund for stormwater, and that's going to be on Monday night's agenda. And this bill would basically make the funds available now, as opposed to having to wait till the next fiscal year. And that way, if we need to use them, we can, but there's some other reasons. And one of the reasons is if we start taking things out of the general the fund balance, and Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that pretty much inflates our revenues over and above what they really actually are. So for budget purposes. I mean, you can probably speak on it a little bit better than I can.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. I think you're right, that if we, it depends on, what we're saying, if it's just a hunk of money for capital construction, for example, or if it's for some kind of operating expenses.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that it makes the budget a little bit cleaner if we don't have this in our budget and just do a supplemental appropriation instead. That's what I was trying to get at.
I would agree with that, and that's what I said last time as well. I think that makes it easier, quicker, it makes it faster, plus it gives staff a opportunity to know what it is that they have available to start making some of those plans, and then I think the implementation piece of that is something to talk about. And I think you can also add to that number later on if you want it, if that's what you're saying.
Right. I mean, I understand that we can do that any time, do a supplemental appropriation of our fund
Additional,
balance,
right.
So if we need to do so, but I just thought that it was cleaner if we did it that way, and we could have it done now as opposed to waiting until November. And I'd like to hear some other comments on it.
Right, and I don't know if Mr. Marash has thoughts on the capital piece of that, or, I don't know, I haven't been very involved in a discussion about what this actually is. I know we've had a lot of stormwater discussions. I know on the list there was some neighborhood, which were kind of smaller projects that I think of that were quicker, and certainly if you had a crew involved that could do those, you can get those done pretty quickly. And in addition, you've got some, many large projects, and as Mr. Marash mentioned last time, $30 or $40 million. I mean, you certainly could get a lot of projects.
Right. Thank you. Matt, do you have any comments on that?
I really don't. I've talked to a few of you and did indicate that, so I guess I do, since I'm saying one. But certainly any amount of money for stormwater could be spent. We can spend it quickly. The one way to do it, though, would be to hire another crew and get in those neighborhoods, and I think you're very efficient doing it that way. Or if the council would like, and if they have an issue hiring more staff, certainly we can bid projects out. It takes a little longer and maybe not as efficient.
Thank you.
Councilman Henry.
And I think on Councilman Prather's bill, I think I know where he's going with this in regards to that crew that Mr. Marash was talking about. I thought about that a bit more, and I don't want to get in the habit of possibly the city funding positions out of fund balance money, and so if that wasn't going to happen, I think the suggestion would have been that we would have had a separate discussion in regard to that. If the money's there, I'm okay. I'm okay as long as I know that money's going to be there.
Right, and it wasn't earmarked for, just clarification, that wasn't my intention to have it for a crew. I was going to let the council and, of course, Matt decide the best way to use that, like they would anyway if we had it in our budget. It won't change anything, except we'll just have the money earlier. That's the only thing that's going to change. And it won't beat within the budget, because it does clutter up the budget a little bit when you do a supplemental appropriation within the budget.
Councilman Hussing.
I would just piggyback off. I think this is a clean option, and it requires us to take a vote to take it off the parking lot tonight, which will be awkward maybe with good faith that it gets put back on Monday night. I missed the last meeting, and I understand there was a plethora of good conversation. And I know that Margie and Steve have presented that list of potential capital projects to us to use fund balance dollars for. And I guess my thought moving forward was that we sometimes try to have that conversation during the budget process, and it gets a little bit mixed up because we end up talking about these major projects and fund balance things, and then we're offsetting, and it gets in the same conversation about a staff member and that sort of work. And so we have a very healthy fund balance, and we have a growing list of needs in that list of projects, not just stormwater, but just other things. And so I would highly encourage us to find time in the next couple months to, if it's a special council meeting or something, to have a specific meeting and conversation and prioritization of that list, so that if we want to make supplemental appropriations to tackle some of those things, we do. But we run the risk of continuing to kick the can down the road on things if we don't actually start to address them. And so it very quickly, weeks turn into months, and months turns into another year, and before we know it, we're at the budget year next year, and it's 26% fund balance, and here's the list of projects, and we haven't done anything. And so I would hope that if we approve this change tonight, take that step Monday night to start that supplemental appropriation, that we find time, schedule a meeting or something, and really prioritize that list and start doing something on these things. The second piece to that is we're addressing stormwater, and it's still a long-term issue for us. And it's been, I don't know how many months since we last had that discussion and debate on a ballot measure. I think it's our responsibility to start working on that again, whether that's a ballot measure or some sort of long-term funding fix. But we've got a responsibility that we shouldn't leave here and leave Monday night saying we put $750,000 towards it and we fixed the issue. I think we've got a responsibility to do more and do it quickly. So I'd encourage us to get to work in the next couple months to figure these things out. And are we in need of a motion then to take it off the parking lot and put forth that bill for Monday night?
That could be done. That wasn't my intention. If my intention was just to make sure we had this bill so everybody could see it, and that we are going to do it on Monday night. And I'd like to suspend the rules so we can get it through quickly on Monday.
Well,
but if you guys want to do it tonight, take it off, that's fine. Otherwise, we can have another meeting next week and do it. I mean, it makes no difference to me.
I don't know what the pleasure of the council is, but it seems like our discussion items are narrowing, and that if we potentially took care of this on the parking lot tonight, moved your bill forward, that quite possibly we could pass a budget here tonight, which would save us and staff from having to meet next Thursday, unless there's other additional items that I'm unaware of. So I guess before I make that motion, I'd be curious if other people had other items to still talk about, because I don't want to certainly cut that off. Alrighty. I saw it earlier, yeah. So I will make a motion to...
Before you do that,
Oh.
can I get a chance to read the bill summary? This is my first time seeing it. Thank you.
Sent out in the packet today.
That was sent out in the packet today, if you had a chance to download that. It's a very large packet again, as well, as you remember. If we're not comfortable about bringing that up right now, there's another topic that can be discussed.
I'm fine.
Councilman Graham.
I was just saying I'm fine. I just hadn't had a chance to read it, so I just wanted to read something before I vote on it. So.
Okay.
Very good.
Are we? Well, I would make a motion then to. Can I put them both in one? To move this bill forward and take it off the parking lot?
The bill is already on the agenda for Monday.
Oh, it's already on, so it doesn't need endorsement. Okay, well then I'll make a motion to, as long as they don't paint me terribly in the press that I'm anti-stormwater, but I'd make a motion to take that off the parking lot for the 2018 budget, the stormwater $750,000.
You have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Councilman Henry seconded. Motion is to remove from the parking lot the $750,000 for stormwater, with the kind of the wink and the nod that we're going to take it up Monday, and also suspend rules. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kemna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Motion passes. sense that we're going backwards on our parking lot, but I feel like it was progress. I don't know. Councilman Hussey.
I make a motion to send forth the budget as presented to the full council.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to send the budget forth to the full council. Councilman Prather.
Just kind of as every year, we do also have a chance between now and that time to make changes should we see something or need something, just so that this isn't it until it's finally voted on through the council.
I'm going to have the city councilor expound on that. So we pass the budget, we would be done with our budget meetings, and then it goes before the council in what, and how is that proceed?
So it's easy to forget that this is a committee of the council, and so similar procedures that affect our more regular committees apply to items that come out of here. So essentially what we will have is a item going to the city council. I believe it's already been first read, and so subject to amendment as any other council bill. And so Councilman Prather is correct in his assessment that opportunity for further action on the bill as will be presented to the city council will be available.
Okay. Any comments from city administrator?
Well, my only comment, a couple of comments. One is that I feel it's incumbent just to reiterate the staff part of that, and that I don't think that there's sufficient an increase in there. We have the 2%, which is a dollar amount, not necessarily across the board. I think that I'd still like to have the opportunity to discuss with the leadership team and bring back some specifics on how to implement that. At 2%, that implementation recommendation may be across the board. I do think that there's some merit to thinking about an additional % or two. But having said that, I think that we'd bring it forward as we have done in the past and let you all vote on it.
Any directive from finance? From my point of clarification is if we pass this and it passed the full council, it would be at your discretion of how that 2% would be distributed throughout the employees?
Now, I think my hesitancy was I didn't know what the amount was going to be. If it's going to be 2%, I'll have that conversation with department directors. The next budget meeting will be able to say, here's the recommendation, whether that's across the board or something different. But the amount of money would be the amount that's in here, unless, of course, council identified a larger percentage.
Okay. I don't have any questions to the left or to the right. Since we're ready for a roll call vote.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Kemna.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Schreiber.
Aye.
Ward. Aye. Wiseman.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like you got your Thursdays off. That motion passes, and we'll convene next Monday. Mayor, do you have any comments to?
Thank you. This coming Monday, the 21st. And I appreciate all of council's work on the budget, and everybody's just had some really great suggestions and recommendations, and just appreciate everybody kind of working together to come to some great conclusions and kind of working through different ideas and different strategies to make different things work. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Your motion for adjournment. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.
Wish you hadn't missed the last two meetings. We could have been done earlier.
It's pretty.